Hi, this is Wishup, and this is your belated full moon video for the full moon in Pisces, but it covers the period from the full moon in Pisces through until the next new moon in Virgo, which will be September 20th. So we still got some time, and let's talk a little bit about the full moon in Pisces. It is very emotional, so you probably noticed that. Very sensitive. Pisces is the classic 12th house, which is the house of endings. It can be the house of dissolution, so things get dissolved. Because of that, it can be bad rapped as the house of imprisonment and the house of addictions. And it does have those qualities that things can become hard to pin down. There can be an escape into fantasy. All that is true, but it is also the home of spiritual gifts and art, because we pull those things from the mystical beyond, and we're pulling it from a realm that we don't really understand with the same kind of clarity. Let's say that we can understand things that behave with geometrical precision. This is a much more symbolic world, and so when we interact with it in the forms of our visions or dreams, it can feel not very concrete, and for some people that's intimidating. Some people love it, and some people get weirded out by it. But the other thing to note about Pisces is what a healing sign it is, what a healing house the 12th house is. It's the final house of the zodiac before we go into Aries. And it being this water sign, it washes away this, these feelings of impurity. It washes away things gently to leave you clean and ready for the new year. And I'll also say that, Pisces is the sign of the fish. Goldfish are considered very lucky and very prosperous in many cultures, and one of the reasons is because they can live in very mucky water, and they live for a very long time, so they're a sign of longevity as well. So when you look down in this murky water of the 12th house, you see these bright shining glimpses of the gold within, which is this long-lived, healthy, very robust goldfish living there in the depths. So Pisces with the two fish, it really does embody a spectrum of things, one side and the other. So what's happening probably right now, certainly for people I know, is that there's this heightened sensitivity, and there's this sense of not just changing the things in your external life which don't fit anymore, which has been happening. That move, that clearing out has been happening. But this is a clearing out of the emotional registers as well, where emotional feelings and bonds are being cleared away if they no longer fit or no longer feel healing and nurturing. Pisces can ask us a lot of questions about consensus. How much do we need people to agree with us? Because Pisces is the sign of universal love. And so I'm seeing people in a push-pull of, how can you be a loving person if you blah, blah, blah? And then the other person is, well, how can you be loving if you're challenging me about my blah, blah, blah? So there's a sense of, what is the price of universal love? Should it have a price at all? What do we need from our tribe? And the last thing I'll mention is, because Pisces can be a sign of institutions, like I mentioned, prisons and hospitals and this kind of thing, there can be a sense that if you've been in a kind of personal recovery, whether formalized or informalized, over some situation in your life, not all of the other inpatients are going to be happy to see you go, to see you get a clean bill of health and move on, because misery can love company. And so there can be a sense that as you're moving out of this stage of being one of us in this situation, in this kind of institutional setup, or in this even, a sort of imprisonment of some condition or feeling or old emotional wound, you could say, that as you move from that, as you wash it away, as you find your gold within the muddy water, that not everyone around you may be happy to see you do that. So I've got 3 tarot cards from the Pamela Coleman Smith commemorative deck. And to sort of match up with that, I have a Lenormand card for focus, kind of to tell us what areas we might want to look at, from the Pixies Astounding Lenormand, which has Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork collaged together for Lenormand by Edmund Zabrowski. So let's see what area we are talking about. Okay, the dog. All right, so the dog is, for me, 7th house. It's partnerships, long-standing partnerships. So loyal ones, the ones very close to your heart, very long-term friendships, long-term relationships. This can be a card. Some people think of the dog as a card for a young man or young men. I do tend to think of it as all sorts of loyal partners, partners who've been with you through the ups and downs. We've got the 10 of Hearts as sort of the pip on here, or as the card that this is associated with, the playing card. And that can be a card of togetherness, of family, of contentment and fulfillment within an ongoing situation. And the dog here is 18. Yes, 18. So this looks like, especially as we were talking about with Pisces, a change in a long-term partnership. And this can also be the introduction of a new partnership. So there may be something new coming in as the old moves out. We've got the new moon, which will be coming up in Virgo. So that would lead to new things with health, new partnerships at work, new partnerships that lead to practical, long-term healthy changes. So this is kind of the focal area. The last thing I should talk about astrologically is that we're in the middle, actually, of this fire trine. It's kind of a loose fire trine, but it keeps, sort of triggering off everything that moves around a little bit, and we send it off again. And it's a fire trine between Saturn and Sagittarius, and between Mercury and Venus in Leo, and also Uranus in Aries. And right now, as I film this, the moon is also in Aries. So these things are not always at exact degrees, but what happens is they keep readjusting as the planets move, and we reestablish this trine. So there's a real reinforcement of energy right now. And when you get a lot of energy, and Mars just moved into Virgo, I believe. Yeah, Mars is just in Virgo, but Mars was in Leo until a couple days ago, so right around the time of the full moon as well. You get all that fire energy, and it starts bubbling stuff to the surface in Pisces. So simmering disagreements, discontentments, upsets in long-term partnerships, they bubble up to the surface in a way that brings an ending, either an ending to the relationship, which it can be, but it can also be a clearing of the air. We bubble this stuff up, we deal with it, and then we clean the slate. It becomes purified, right? We clear it, but either way, things are coming up in partnerships that need to be dealt with. So let's see what cards we get for this. So the central card is the Nine of Swords. So this is a Gemini-related card, Mercury in Gemini. So this is all about thoughts, perceptions, worries. One of the things I look at with this card, because I don't always think of it as nightmares, although Pisces has a dreamy quality, so you may want to pay attention to your dreams, is right down here. Do you see carved into the bed, there's this duel scene basically, or a battle scene of somebody, a swordman, taking out another person. And because this bedding seems to me to be covered with astrological symbols, let me hold this up so you can really see it. See, it's covered with astrological symbols, and what I read as poppies, which are a flower of remembrance, and you may be familiar with them for war remembrances, veterans. We'll talk about the poppies, or they'll hold poppies, and they thought of the poppies covering a field as being representing blood, the blood of fallen soldiers. And poppies, of course, are also related to opium, right? And the dreams, the prophetic dreams of the opium eaters, some of them very valid, and some of them dragons that they were chasing that were imaginary, right? So this is, to me, this card is very relevant to, we are examining the old wounds, the old wars, and we're really looking at our feelings about those, and we're letting those feelings come forth in a very emotional, very real way. They might be coming up in your dreams. And as these old battles, these old wars come forward, we're trying to put them in perspective. Gemini, the twin, or the twins, it is a sign of analysis. So we're trying mentally to come to terms. So one of the things that's probably important is to let the feelings come. Now, if they're showing up while you're in the middle of doing microsurgery, maybe push them aside for a few hours. But really, if you're feeling those feelings coming up, this is not a time to push them down. This is a time to let them come, and instead of being afraid of them, think about what they might mean. Really examine what they might mean for you. How they've changed will be a good indicator. Like, how did I used to feel, and how do I feel now? Okay, so here we have the Temperance Angel. So this is an angel of fire. It's got the fire triangle, and we're in the middle of the fire trine, right? There's action that we can take. And the Temperance Angel is blending elements together, right? 1 foot on the land, 1 foot on the water. So there's very much a sense that all is in balance here. And what you're trying to do is let your emotions come forward in a way that is constructive, artistic, that clears the air, but that allows them room to be. Because this is a time when you try to push all that down, it's just going to bubble up and create problems for you. Even, you know, as in the central card, nightmares. What you're really trying to do is incorporate these feelings within yourself. So I know it's tough when you've got these bursts of emotion coming up and you're thinking, this is getting in my way, but it's not really. It's really trying to just clear the air, to let you look at it and then let you release it in some form or fashion, whether it's through discussing with a person what your feelings are, whether it's releasing some connection in your life that you don't need anymore, you don't want anymore, or whether or not it's just coming to terms with your own feelings and dealing with old grief. I would say this is a great time to deal with old grief that you haven't looked at in a while because you've been afraid of. Right now, it's not going to overwhelm you. That fire trine, all that fire is going to support you as you deal with these watery, deep, dark issues. So there are times in life when you might be afraid, if I open up this door, I'm going to be overwhelmed by my own grief and my own sadness and my own whatever. This is a great time to do it. You've got so much backing in fire that you can move forward. So let's turn this over. Here she is. And here we have the High Priestess. So I wish I had more time to talk about it, but I'm going to run out of time on this video. She is the card of wisdom. She is also a card of balance. See the black and white pillars with the pomegranate behind her. It is a card of going to the underworld and coming back wiser. And this is a great time, whether you do it through meditation, visualization, or just journaling, self-examination, whatever you want to do, to take a moment, visit your own personal underworld, whatever that looks like, and come out with the great wisdom that you deserve. So hope that helps, and rock on.